It's trying to go. Woo! All right, we are live. Hey, everyone. Welcome to this week's Hustle to Hero. I'm Kiley Doll, your host, and I love to be able to interview, I'm going to say it, a badass veterans that have protected our country. And I am here with I'm just going to call Slay.
Slay.
You got it. And we're going to hear about her story, but she is a very declarated Air Force veteran turned image consultant, which I can't wait to hear about. Of course, I've already heard a little bit about it because we've met about, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I want to introduce you to this absolute fine lady.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Rochelle Hemingway, and I'm affectionately called Slay or Slay Queen. And I met Kiley here recently, and I'm just absolutely excited to be here on the show today. So thank you so much for having me on your podcast for your audience.
You got it. I love it. I love it. We met at a veterans event.
Yeah.
And it was called Grits and Grace. Yes?
Yeah. Grit and
Okay.
grace. Yeah.
And I connected with you guys through another veteran, Danielle, and he's also going to be on the podcast in a few weeks from now.
Oh, awesome.
I know, but he's like, "Oh my gosh, you've got to go to this event." And so I quickly signed up that very minute that he said, "You got to go." When somebody says you got to go, I do it.
Yeah, absolutely. When we met too, we met with a lot of different other powerful and amazing women. And so when you get many of us in the room, you don't know what is happening. You don't know what to expect. But I do know this, that there was a lot of connections
Yes.
that were being made in that particular event, in that experience. And that's what I love about the beauty of networking, is because we can connect to other people, to their audience, to what they provide, and make more impact in the world with what we are providing, our services that we are offering. So I love that.
I loved it, and I thought it was so amazing. That was one of my first completely. Well, I think most people that night were veterans.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure there could have been one or two. Actually, I was one of the ones.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a military brat. My son is special forces. My other son is an amazing first responder captain on the fire department. So I have so much respect for all of you. I want to do this. Tell us a little bit about your story from the military side, and how long you were in, because I think those are so important.
Yeah. Well, so I will start from when I went into the military, of course, because we have stories on top of stories.
Yeah.
So I went into the Air Force at the age of 18, and I retired at the age of 49. So if you do the math, that is 30 years in the United States Air Force. And service for me, there were so many different challenges throughout the entire service. But when I look back at it, I see that there were a lot of lessons that I learned, and really looking at who I am, what I was able to do in that. My husband also served 30 years in the Air Force as well. And so, being a dual military couple, it comes with, a lot of coordination and strategic planning. We were very strategic about how we were navigating our military careers. And so I was a medical technician when I started out. And then over some time, I went to school and I was trained to be an independent duty medical technician. And that's when I started to deploy to all different places across the world, providing medical care. And I was a person, if someone got hurt, injured, needed to be aerobac, helicoptered out of the different places that I was at, I was their medic. So I did that for about 10 years. And then I also served as a first sergeant, which is like a social worker equivalent. And I did that for about 4 years. just focusing on health and welfare of all the men and women that were serving at whatever installation. And then I became an inspector general program manager, where I went and inspected all across base, their programs, their policies. No one really wanted to see me because I had the checklist and the checkboard, making marks on, what needed to be reviewed and changed at times. And then in my last role, I served as a command chief master sergeant at Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota. And in that role, I was responsible, along with the wing commander and the vice commander at the time. We were responsible for all the things that happened out on the base, and that was over 8,000 people. So, one of the things that I really learned was about leadership. Leadership in yourself and leadership of others. And I really think that it has a lot to do with what I'm doing today. Has a lot.
I'd say that's a lot of lessons learned, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So when you got out,
hmm
did you know what you wanted to do? You're like, yes, I'm ready to get out, and here's where I'm going.
No, at that level of leadership, you are, no kidding, focused on mission, you're focused on people, and there's a little to, for in my case, now in my particular case, I
Mhm.
felt like there was not a lot of room to think about what I wanted to do after I retired. So I worked all the way up to the day of, and I know there's a lot of people who are like, well, why'd you do that? Sometimes you feel obligated to
Yeah.
contribute. And so it was my last assignment, my last stop, if you will. So I didn't really think too much into it. I did get a call from one of my mentors, and they said, hey, you should really write a book about your experience in the military. And from that conversation, I started to write this first book.
Okay.
And so it was during the pandemic, and then I was still serving. So there was a little bit more downtime. So
Mhm.
I started to write, and I started to think about what is it that I really wanted to do, like what I
Mhm.
was passionate
Yeah.
about. And I just started to just dabble. I didn't even know what I was doing. I, took off some time, and I just wanted to explore and find Rochelle. Like, who is Rochelle at her core? And what does she really, really, really like to do? And so I wasn't that person that had like a 3 to 5 year plan out of, this is what I'm going to do. It really took time for me afterwards to really get into a battle rhythm of, okay, this feels good to me. What I'm doing is in alignment with my core values that
Mhm.
I really, really want to have in my life. And so that's why, I think it's important for anyone that's in service, to think about where is it that you would like to go, and kind of look into things while you're still on active duty or in the reserves, or, in whatever status that you're in, and start to do a little bit and see where it takes you.
I
Mhm.
like that, Rochelle, because sometimes we have a hard time, like, oh, not admitting, but actually putting it out there. Like, I had no
Yeah.
clue. I had no
Yeah.
clue.
Yeah.
Because we feel like, oh, people are going to think, well, of course you had to have known, right? And and so I love that you're vulnerable in that way, that you didn't know at that time. And I think, especially as women, we get so focused on what we're doing, what's going on, who we need to help. Well, what about the family? What about this? We have so many other people in the in our circle that we
Yeah.
want to understand, and we want to protect, and we want to consult with. Like, you're not going to just, oh, take this job or just start this without consulting them.
Yeah. And it's by the way that it's set up, right? So, um, I fortunately I have a slay amazing husband. Okay. So he encouraged me to follow my heart, to check out things before I decide, that I was going to do it, whether or not I was going to become an entrepreneur or go back into the government space or, do something else.
Mhm.
And I think that's important too, like your partner, your spouse, your family, your friends, if you have some folks that are encouraging you to follow your heart, follow where you think you need to be, it makes it a little bit easier. I'm not saying
Mm.
that this path or this journey that I've been on has been easy.
No.
There's a lot of emotions that are involved when you literally are grieving for a career that you've had for so
Yeah.
long, you know.
I want to, that's a good segue because I want to touch base on that. I was going to ask you, how does it feel now you've been in this, you have been a war fighter, you've been a veteran,
Mhm.
and you've served the country now for 30 years.
Yeah.
And so now you're going to step down, step up, however you want to say it, because this is not a step down, but
Yeah.
you're going to pivot. Now it's time to change.
Yeah.
How did that feel and how did you handle that?
I was scared. I mean, so I started as a what do you call it? A MLM consultant. So I
Mhm.
initially started as an R bond consultant.
Okay.
One of my great
Direct
friends,
sale. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, Marianne Navarro, she's one of my sisters in arms. She was also an R bond consultant, and she reached out to me and said, "Hey, you really need to, come on board with me." And I could have either said no, like, nah, that's not for me. But I decided to say yes.
Oh, good.
And so I learned a lot through that. And then when, we decided, hey, we're not going to do that any longer, then I was like, it's not as scary as I thought it would be
Mm,
to really dig my heels into my own business. And so once I started to do that, yes, I'm very uncomfortable still, because as a business owner, entrepreneur, there are a lot of ifs, ands, and all the things. And so you still learn.
yeah.
And, I don't get everything right. I don't know everything at all. But I feel like I'm getting closer, like to understanding more. And that was the same way that I felt when I was in the military. When you
Yeah.
first start out, you don't know what you don't know, you know? And you grow into it and you start to mature and you start to connect and you build a reputation for yourself. And so, now in my head, it's like, why can't I do that now
Mhm.
as a civilian, as an entrepreneur? So I'm betting on me every single day. But in the midst of that, I know now I am the leader of so many other women who want to do the same thing as me.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, you know where my passion is. It's like I feel that everybody has it in them to accomplish their dreams.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I teach the entrepreneurship. I've chosen to really, really support again the reentry community and veterans and first responders because I know that they've got various different challenges on how to start a business, how to pivot from going to this to that,
Yeah.
and knowing. And I think with the veteran side of it, you have to be on it. You don't have there's no room for error.
No.
And so in our business, thank goodness, this isn't a life or death thing for the most
Right.
people, for the most part.
Yeah.
Um, but so then you are maybe afraid of like just stepping it up there because you're so used to like, well, holy cow, that could kill somebody in your past
Exactly.
profession.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a little bit of hesitation. There's a little bit of, well, if I step in it too fully, am I an imposter? Am I, really the person, or in this respective field, am I becoming the expert? Because I was just sharing with someone that I met earlier today. And, you know, as I was in service, as many have served, we don't know like what was going on. Like I was oblivious, all right, because I had a job to do. And so I was traveling all over the world, having the family. And so when I stepped out, I didn't realize that a lot of people were, in my mind, way ahead of me,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I was thinking to myself, like, how do I accelerate in such a way where first I am staying genuine and authentic to myself, but at the same time, I am seeing results in a more
Yeah.
tangible way. Like I can see from, people coming to me, the opportunities that are
Mhm.
coming, how I'm presenting myself. So that's where, all those thoughts and those beliefs, they've kind of like taken the back seat. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
even entertain it anymore, just like, yeah, we're in it, it's happening. So, just be grateful. And I'm
Yeah.
very grateful for where I'm at, that I get to in this next chapter,
Yes.
that I don't have to do any of the things that I had to do when I was in military. And again, I do not discount my military service at all, but it's in a different way now. Like
Yes.
I get to own my freedom. I get to own my, destiny.
Right.
So it's a whole different look and a perspective.
I like that. So, all right, now let's do this. I want to. So, you dabbled in Arbonne for a little while, and
Yeah.
then how did you then come up to imaging consulting and doing what you are doing right now?
So I've done a little pivoting, and I love the word pivot, because it's the word of the day. I think a lot of the things that are happening in our world,
Mhm.
we're doing it a little bit different, and we're going into a different direction. So initially, I started out as a leadership and image consultant.
Okay.
So because I have a master's degree in strategic leadership, I wanted to pair the two together. And so I was like, well, let me put that out there, right? And for some time, there wasn't really any movement, if you will. Like I didn't feel like there was enough traction of
Mhm.
me. I had to clarify my message as to really what it is that I was solving. What is the problem I'm solving? And so I decided to get my image consultant certification. And through that process, I was like, oh, okay, this is exactly what I need to
That's
do. I
awesome.
absolutely love. I read like 300 pages of image consultant material. And I was like involved in depth, because when I was in the military, there was an image that you need to withhold in the military, and your uniform, making sure
Mhm.
that your hair, your nails, your makeup, all the things, right? And so I just love that. So I said, you know what? In that image consultant certification, they talk about personal branding. And I just decided that's what I'm going to do. Now, like I help women who are in leadership roles or going into a leadership role for sure. But what I share with people is that I am an image consultant. And that means that we look at your appearance, behaviors, your communication skills, and your digital presence. Because I feel like once you get those four areas, mastered,
Mhm.
then, a lot of the opportunities that you're looking for probably going to present itself rather quickly.
Yes.
So I absolutely enjoy every bit of what I'm doing. Yes, it's work, but it's the good work that I want to be doing. And I get the right clients. So it's just perfect. Absolutely
That's
perfect.
nice. I love that. And it's always so good. I'm a person, it's like, and I tell my kids and I tell my friends, it's like, listen, if you don't like it, change it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And change it quick
Change
because
it
life
quick.
is too short.
It is, absolutely. I got a text message from one of my brothers-in-law in arms. And so I have a lot of sisters and brothers in
Oh,
arms
I
that
bet.
are,
I can
in
imagine.
cardio. So, and so, when I decided, hey, I'm just going to do personal branding, image consultant, he said, yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Because, I have the word slay, which is a whole mantra. It's a
Mhm.
whole experience. And what I decided to do was make a name for myself, not in a boasty or braggy way, but
Sure.
a name for myself where I own the narrative.
Yeah.
All right. And so I don't have to rely on my positions, titles, and ranks that I had when I was in the military to, be successful. And I think, our definitions of success, they change over seasons
Mhm.
of our life. But, now I'm like, I absolutely love to help women professionals, especially women veterans, to really find their most authentic personal brand and make it their own, and that's what they are known for, and leaving a legacy. So this is legacy building,
Right.
um, which something that sometimes we don't think too much into, but
Mhm.
I think about the actions that I do every day. How am I leaving a legacy, not only for me, but for my family
Right.
at whole?
Also, I want to say though, and then I don't want to talk about. I know you've got a workshop coming up, but I want to talk about
Yeah.
just one thing. Think about this. I'm going to say slay.
Yes.
Uh, is we're doing more than that. When I help somebody build a business and grow and scale it,
Yeah.
I'm helping their family
Yeah.
and then community
Yep.
and then perhaps the church, perhaps whatever it is, because that person can go bigger, go, they can do so much more, they can help so much more because they're financially independent, but also they're so happy. It
Yeah.
makes them better mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, just like where you're at. Okay,
Yeah.
now let's face, you've got a woman coming out of the military, you know how that feels.
Oh yeah.
She's identified with a soldier, a
Yeah.
military, this, that. I love what you said about, though, the image of when you were in. When you were a soldier, that was an image, and you cared what your hair looked like. You wanted to make sure everything was perfect in that image. So
Absolutely.
I can see why you're so darn good at this.
Yeah. You know, um, I used to get compliments when I was in the military a lot. They're like, we don't want to stand up against her. Because every time, she comes here, she is just prepared, she is ready. But I did care. I
Right.
wanted to make sure that I was, who I was at the time, you know, and when you say you're in the military, there's already an assumption that people make, right?
Mm,
When people say I'm a firefighter, when somebody
yep.
says I'm a lawyer, when somebody says I'm a doctor, you automatically come up with the picture
Mm,
of the
mhm,
persons that's in uniform. So I wanted to make sure when I said, hey, I'm Sergeant so and so, Chief so and
mhm.
so, whatnot, that it actually matched. And so that takes a lot of preparation.
Yeah.
So you have to think 10 steps ahead on how do you want to present yourself, who is in the audience, the social cues and the social environments for the rooms that you're in,
Right.
and the emotional intelligence that you need to have. There's a lot that people assume they, if they see you, and I know people say, well, that's just being judgy. Well, guess what? People will judge you,
Right.
okay, automatically as soon as you walk into wherever you go. They're already making whatever, so why is that first impression going to I look at it a different way. Like those first impressions are everything.
Yep.
So that says to them, this is who I am, and this is how I want to be perceived. So if it's different, that's where I step in and go, okay, well, let's make sure it mirrors to what you say you want to become,
Mm.
because you don't want anybody else to brand you.
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
So
Absolutely.
they'll probably get it wrong.
Right. Right. But you've got to have your own voice. You know what it's like.
Absolutely.
So, and I love that. And you know what? The thing of it is, for me, I'm very big on mentorship, and I'm also very big on you cannot do everything yourself. You
Yes.
cannot. You need somebody outside your box looking after. Let's say, listen, I know you might look at yourself this way, but listen, Slay wants to, she's going to help you take that image and make it really what you're trying to say it is. And I
Absolutely.
love that.
I have my own image,
Yeah.
if you will. And well, the first things that I tell my clients is, this is about you. This is not about me. This is not about, whoever's around you. This is about what you want. And so now we get to decide together, but you're going to tell me what it is that's really, tugging at your heart. Where do you want to see yourself? Like, what's your style?
Yeah.
Everybody's got a different type of
Right.
style. I
Oh my
don't
goodness.
prescribe to any one style. I prescribe to the person's style.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
is it that? And then all I'm doing is putting a little sprinkle
Yeah.
on top of that. That's all that is, right? And so the confidence level, and that's really where I'm really focused in on, is making sure your confidence level is as high as it possibly can be, so that way you can get after the opportunities that
Yes.
you desire and deserve. And so, sometimes we don't really think about that, like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can do this or not. I'm like, yes, you can.
Yes, you
All right,
can.
put on your favorite outfit.
Yeah. That's right.
And
That's right.
embody that, so that the way other people will see that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what people want anyway. They want to see the human.
Yes.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Before we run out of time, tell us
Yeah.
about your workshop.
So my workshop is on April 23rd, which is next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is virtual, so everyone can have access to it. This is focused on women. I know some of my men, how they are. They're like, why not me? I'm like, well, we're just on with the women, okay? So what we're talking through in that is about pivoting, okay, and prospering with your personal brand, so that your personal brand can open up new doors of opportunities. I
Mm,
know there's a lot
beautiful.
of individuals who are in the government, federal
Hmm.
space right now, who are looking to do something different. And the one thing that I really know for myself is when I started to use personal brand as a tool, because it is a tool,
Yep.
that a lot of things changed in the way that I showed up for myself and also showed up for my business. So it was one of the things I kind of mastered at the very beginning, which is now have planted the seeds for, the greatness, just like being on your podcast. So,
Yeah. Thank you.
this is absolutely wonderful. So
I
thank you
love
for
it. So
allowing me to
everybody
share.
will have the show notes. What I'd like you to do, you'll give it to me, and
Yeah.
by the time we roll out the rest of the evening, it'll be
Yep.
on there, so everybody will know how to sign up.
Yes.
And I cannot thank you enough.
Mm.
I feel so honored to have like met you. I just love your personality. I know that we've got some really amazing things that we're going to do together.
Oh, yeah. This is just the beginning, Kylie.
Yeah, beautiful.
So thank you so much for allowing me to share on your platform. I really, truly am blessed, and I'm grateful for you.
Thank you. All right, you guys, bye for now. Remember, if you'd like to be on the Hustle to Hero podcast, please hit me up. You can find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Just say me, and we're going to get you on. And have a super day. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.